Albert Pujols, perhaps no name in MLB history, represents pure hitting dominance quite like that. The machine. We all remember the smooth swing, the quiet confidence, the clutch moments, the towering home runs that seem to defy physics. The Dominican slugger who accomplished more in his first decade than most Hall of Famers managed in their entire careers. But as legends grow larger with time, we can lose sight of what he truly managed to accomplish during his playing days. The absolutely staggering raw numbers, including 703 home runs, 3,384 hits, and 3 MVP awards. We may remember the highlights, like the time he crushed that mammoth shot off Brad Lidge in the 2005 NLCS. But we find ourselves forgetting the great stories, like how he went from an unknown 13th round pick to perhaps the greatest right-handed hitter since Babe Ruth, or how he maintained elite production well into his 40s when most players have long since retired. Well, now it's time to remember and appreciate the glory of baseball's machine. Step right up to the plate with us as we dive deep into greatness. When Albert Pujols debuted with the St. Louis Cardinals in 2001, he was already 21 years old, though questions about his actual age would follow him throughout his career. The Dominican Republic native came with an incredible story of perseverance. Born in Santo Domingo, Pujols moved to the United States at age 16, barely speaking English and carrying dreams that seemed impossible for a kid from his circumstances. The young Albert was discovered playing in a summer league in Kansas City, where his raw talent caught the attention of scouts despite his unrefined technique. Fort Osage High School in Missouri became his launching pad, where he hit .471 as a senior and earned a scholarship to Maple Woods Community College. Even in junior college, Pujols was overlooked by most major league scouts. His swing was unconventional, his body wasn't particularly imposing, and questions about his age and signability scared teams away. When the 1999 MLB draft rolled around, 401 players were selected before Albert Pujols heard his name called. The Cardinals took him in the 13th round, 402nd overall, a pick that would go down as one of the greatest steals in baseball history. Cardinal scout Fernando Arango was the man who discovered Pujols, later saying he knew within minutes of watching him take batting practice that he was looking at something special. But even Arango couldn't have predicted what was coming next. Pujols tore through minor leagues like a man among boys. In 2000, his only full season in the minors, he hit .314 with 19 home runs and 96 RBIs across 3 levels, earning Minor League Player of the Year honors. The Cardinals called him up from spring training in 2001, where he was supposed to compete for a backup role. Instead, he forced his way into the lineup and never looked back. What happened next was unprecedented in baseball history. Pujols didn't just give a good rookie season, he had one of the greatest debuts ever. He hit .329 with 37 home runs and 130 RBIs.
Hit down the right field line and hit pretty well towards the corner. That ball is gone. Home run. Down the right field line for Pujols.
Becoming the 4th player in MLB history to hit 30 home runs and drive in 100 runs as a rookie. He won National League Rookie of the Year unanimously. But that was just the beginning. The truly remarkable thing about Pujols wasn't just his immediate success, it was his consistency. While most young players experience growing pains and adjustment periods, Pujols seemed to arrive fully formed, like he'd been playing at the major league level his entire life. His approach at the plate was already mature beyond his years. He rarely chased bad pitches, worked counts in his favor, and seemed to know exactly what pitch was coming. Opposing pitchers and catchers would later describe facing him as unsettling. He always seemed to be one step ahead. What Albert Pujols accomplished from 2001 to 2010 with the Cardinals might be the greatest 10-year stretch by any hitter in baseball history. The numbers are almost impossible to believe. .328 batting average, 408 home runs, 1,230 RBIs, 3 MVP awards, 2005, 2008, and 2009, 2 World Series championships, 2006 and 2011, 9 All-Star selections, 6 Silver Slugger awards. But statistics only tell part of the story. Pujols didn't just accumulate numbers, he elevated his game in the biggest moments, Game 3 of the 2011 World Series against the Rangers stands as perhaps the greatest individual offensive performance in World Series history. 3 home runs on 3 pitches, each one more spectacular than the last, capped off by a moonshot that traveled 465 feet and left the Texas crowd in stunned silence. The machine earned his nickname through his robot-like consistency and mechanical perfection at the plate. His swing was a thing of beauty, compact, powerful, and repeatable. He could turn on any fastball, lay off borderline pitches, and drive in runs from any spot in the lineup. During this period, Pujols became the face of baseball. He was the clean superstar in an era tainted by steroids, family man who carried himself with dignity, and the clutch performer who seemed to save his best for when it mattered most.
Fans know him. Here's one into left center field. Back at the track, he's got another.
After the 2011 season, the Cardinals, fresh off their World Series championship, Albert Pujols became a free agent. St. Louis fans assumed their hero would remain a Cardinal for life. After all, he'd become synonymous with the franchise in the city. But the Los Angeles Angels had different plans. They offered Pujols a 10-year, $240 million contract that dwarfed the Cardinals' offer. The decision was about more than money. It was about respect, legacy, and Pujols' belief that he deserved to be paid like the generational talent he was. The announcement sent shockwaves through baseball. Cardinals fans felt betrayed. Angels fans were ecstatic, and baseball observers wondered if Pujols could maintain his elite level of play well in his 30s with a massive contract weighing on his shoulders. What happened next was perhaps the most disappointing chapter in Albert Pujols' career. The player who had been the most consistent superstar in baseball suddenly looked human, and sometimes worse than human. His first season in Anaheim was a disaster by his standards. He hit .285 with 30 home runs and 105 RBIs, numbers that would be excellent for most players, but represent a significant decline for the machine. Injuries began to mount, his power numbers dropped, and whispers about his age grew louder. The Angels, despite having Pujols and Mike Trout on the same roster, couldn't make the playoffs. Year after year, they fell short of expectations, and Pujols' massive contract became viewed as an albatross around the franchise neck. From 2012 to 2021, Pujols hit .256 with 222 home runs, still productive, but a far cry from his Cardinals dominance. He dealt with foot injuries, knee problems, and the simple reality that Father Time was catching up with him. Critics began writing his obituary, suggesting that his best days were far behind him and that he was simply collecting paychecks while taking up a roster spot. The machine had apparently broken down. But Albert Pujols wasn't done yet. In 2022, at age 42, he orchestrated one of the most remarkable farewell tours in sports history. The Cardinals brought him back home on a 1-year deal, and the magic returned almost immediately. Playing part-time and serving as a mentor to younger players, Pujols rediscovered his power stroke just when it mattered most. As he chased 700 home runs, a milestone only achieved by Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds, the baseball world rallied around him. His 696th home run came against the Dodgers in September, followed by numbers 697 and 698 in the same game. The anticipation built to a fever pitch. Then came the moment the baseball world had been waiting for. On September 23, 2022, against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, Pujols stepped into the box in the 3rd inning and launched a 389-foot blast to left field. Home run number 700. He became just the 4th player in MLB history to reach that milestone, joining Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and Barry Bonds in baseball's most exclusive club. The emotion was immediate and overwhelming. Pujols rounded the bases with tears in his eyes as both Cardinals and Dodger fans gave him a standing ovation. Even the Dodgers players came out of their dugouts to applaud, a moment that transcended team loyalty and celebrated pure baseball greatness. But he wasn't done yet. The very next night, September 24th, Pujols crushed his 701st home run, also against the Dodgers, ensuring he'd have sole possession of 4th place on the all-time list. The celebration continued back in St. Louis, where on October 3rd, 2022, at what would be his final regular season home game at Busch Stadium, Pujols launched his 703rd career home run. The crowd erupted, grown men cried, and a legend cemented his place in baseball immortality. The Cardinals made the playoffs that year, and Pujols got to end his career the way it began, as a champion contributing to October Magic. When Albert Pujols retired following the 2022 season, he left behind a resume that few players in baseball history could match. 703 home runs, 4th all-time. 3,384 hits, 5th all-time. 2,218 RBIs, 3rd all-time. 11 All-Star selections, 3 MVP awards, 2 World Series championships, and 6 Silver Slugger awards. But beyond the numbers, Pujols represented something special in baseball. He was the bridge between eras, the clean superstar who followed the steroid era, the fundamentally sound hitter in an age of launch angle and exit velocity, and the clutch performer who seemed to understand the weight of big moments. His first decade with the Cardinals might be the greatest 10-year stretch by any player in baseball history. His ability to maintain excellence into his 40s showed a dedication to craft that few athletes possess. And his storybook ending reminded us why we fell in love with baseball in the first place. They called him the Machine because of his mechanical performance and robotic consistency. But Albert Pujols was always more human than machine. A kid from the Dominican Republic who dreamed big, worked harder than anyone around him, and never forgot where he came from. When will we see another player dominate for an entire decade the way Pujols did? When will we see another 42-year-old hit 24 home runs and drive in 68 runs? When will we see another player handle success and failure with such grace and dignity? The answer is simple: we won't. There will never be another Albert Pujols, and that's exactly what makes him so special. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and comment to let us know who you want to hear about next. Subscribe for more of baseball's legendary stories every week.